What the human mind can imagine and believe it can achieve, said Napoleon Hill. And although these words sound extraordinary, many people remain trapped in debt, insecurity, and fear, waiting for a miracle to change their lives without taking a single step. Perhaps the contradiction lies right here, because most people want to feel ready before they act. But as Hill discovered and science confirms, it is not confidence that creates action. Action is what creates confidence. Today you will understand how adopting the mindset of successful people can transform your identity, your income, your choices, and the direction of your life. And you may realize that your new version was always inside you, simply waiting for permission to emerge. Most people grow up believing that one day, almost magically, they will wake up feeling ready. Ready to ask for a raise, ready to start a business, ready to leave a relationship that ended long ago. But that day never arrives. It never arrives because readiness is not born from certainty, but from movement. And that is exactly what Hill discovered. You don't transform by thinking, wishing, or waiting, but by acting like the person you want to become. The brain works logically and demands evidence, yet the evidence it accepts is not thoughts but behavior, which is why so many people remain stuck for years in the cycle of, I want to, but I don't feel ready yet. Life passes in an instant, while they wait for an internal permission that never comes. And perhaps you've experienced this by postponing an idea, a course, or an important conversation because you believed you needed to feel completely confident first. But if you're honest with yourself, you will recognize how many opportunities you lost because you waited too long, and you will see that this feeling of not being ready is often just fear in disguise, fear of judgment, fear of failure, fear of looking foolish. These fears are extremely common, as studies show that more than 7 out of 10 people believe they are not good enough to pursue what they truly want, and so they remain exactly where they are. But the world does not respond to what you think about yourself. It responds to what you do, because an insecure employee who behaves as if they have no value seems ordinary, while the same person, speaking clearly, dressing professionally, and presenting ideas with confidence, is perceived completely differently. They did not become someone else overnight. They simply began acting like someone who believes in themselves, and then others began to believe as well, because behavior creates perception, and perception opens opportunities. Many mistake this for fake it till you make it, but that is incorrect, because pretending means deceiving others, while what Hill taught and what modern psychology confirms is embodying a higher version of yourself to train your own mind. It is not falsehood, it is preparation, and Muhammad Ali understood this perfectly, because before becoming a champion, before fame, before the spotlight, he repeated to himself, "I am the greatest," and many thought it was arrogance. It was pure mental programming. He was building an identity so strong that the world had no choice but to recognize it, just like in the classic study where researchers found that people who dress as if they already hold their desired position are seen as more competent, more confident, and more effective. Clothes do not change the person, but they change the way a person enters a room, and that shift transforms how the environment responds. It is like activating an inner switch that directs your behavior toward the identity you want to embody. The strongest proof of this principle came from Napoleon Hill himself during the Great Depression. When he was broke, drowning in debt, discredited, and emotionally destroyed, it would have been easy for him to hide, shrink, or abandon his own voice. But he did the opposite. He put on his best clothes, lifted his shoulders, and began giving free radio talks even though he did not have a single cent in his pocket. He acted not like a defeated man, but like someone who had something valuable to teach. That simple action made people see him differently. His reputation was reborn, his confidence returned, and the environment reacted to the posture he chose to adopt. It was this darkest phase of his life that opened the path to the creation of Think and Grow Rich, one of the most influential books in history. Imagine if Hill had waited to feel ready. Imagine if he had told himself, "Someday I will, but today I do not have the mind for it." The book that changed millions of lives might never have existed, and that leads us to an unavoidable reflection. How many extraordinary versions of yourself have died because you waited to feel different before taking action? And what if what your life is missing to finally move forward is not more money, not more time, not more courage, but simply the decision to act like someone who believes in themselves. Try a simple test tomorrow morning. Ask yourself, if I were already the most successful version of myself, what would I do today? And then take one single action aligned with that answer. Maybe it is sending a message you have been postponing, maybe making a decision you have avoided, or simply presenting yourself to the world with a different attitude. Small actions like these seem insignificant in the moment, but they build an entirely new identity. This is how you change what the world believes about you, by first changing what you believe about yourself. Most people live in a state of confusion disguised as movement. They wake up early, work all day, solve problems and go to sleep, exhausted, yet still feel they have gone nowhere. It is like rowing with all your strength in a completely dark lake. You get tired, but have no idea which direction you are going. And this happens because something Hill considered essential is missing absolute clarity about what you want. Not superficial clarity, but clear, specific, measurable, almost tangible clarity. Without it, every effort becomes wasted, and it is astonishing how most people respond when asked, "What do you want from life?" The answers are almost always vague. I want to be happy, I want to make more money, I want more freedom, I want a better life. But without details, those sentences mean nothing. And Hill said, a vague desire creates a vague result. When you let your mind wander in uncertainty, it has no fuel to work in your favor. It is like throwing darts with your eyes covered. Luck might favor you only once, but without a clear direction, you will never recreate that outcome. While the moment you define exactly what you want, your mind switches on, filtering information, spotting opportunities, and noticing connections that were invisible before. Science backs this up, because a study from the University of California found that people who write down their goals clearly and review them regularly are almost twice as likely to achieve them compared to those who rely only on positive thoughts. Writing transforms something vague into an internal agreement, making your mind stop treating it as fantasy and start treating it as a real objective that demands completion. You have probably experienced this without noticing, like when you decide to buy a certain car and suddenly it appears everywhere, or when you learn a new word and it keeps showing up in conversations, videos, and books. That is your reticular activation system, the part of your brain that focuses on what you label as important. And that same mechanism helped Wilma Rudolph defeat what seemed impossible. The girl who was told by doctors that she would never walk again imagined herself running, crossing the finish line, and living the life of an athlete long before her body could make it real. She leaned not only on hope, but on a sharp mental picture that guided every training session, every effort, and every tiny improvement, until she became an Olympic champion, not through magic, but through clarity turned into action. This example shows that the power to change your life is not in how intense your desire feels, but in how well defined it is, because the more detailed it becomes, the stronger it gets, and the more specific it is, the more achievable it becomes. Napoleon Hill lived this truth as he spent several decades interviewing the most influential figures of his era, driven by a purpose as transparent as crystal to gather and teach the philosophy of success to the world. He did not know when, how, or who would support him, but he knew exactly what he was building, and that clarity opened the doors to Andrew Carnegie, one of the wealthiest men in history, as well as Thomas Edison, Henry Ford, and hundreds of other giants. Life tends to favor those who ask with precision. But now the question turns to you. What exactly do you want? How much do you want to earn by when? What lifestyle do you want to live? Where do you want to wake up 5 years from now? With whom and doing what? If you cannot answer these clearly, you may be living on autopilot, reacting instead of creating. And that feeling of working hard but moving very little may come not from a lack of effort, but from a lack of direction. When you define your goal with full detail, everything around you begins to align. Opportunities you once ignored become visible, paths that seemed non-existent begin to open, and decisions happen faster because you already know your destination. Clarity does not just speed up progress, it drastically reduces anxiety, because doubt shrinks when the objective becomes sharp, and many fears exist only because the mind does not know which future it should protect. So imagine your ideal future with maximum accuracy. The time you wake up, the environment you live in, the work you do, the amount of money in your account, the experiences you collect, and the people around you. For the more details you add, the stronger your inner compass becomes, and clarity turns a foggy road into a reliable map. When you have a guide, you no longer rely on luck because you begin creating your own path by writing your main goal like a contract with your future, using one clear figure, one defined deadline, and one powerful reason that ignites the fire within you. As Hill explained, a burning desire needs form or it fades, and when you give shape to your longing life, becomes lighter, more logical, and more intentional, because clarity separates those who only react from those who truly build their destiny. This is the difference between dreaming while awake and truly waking up to achieve what you want. And every big dreamer faces a moment when everything seems to collapse at once. The initial excitement disappears, results do not show up, and opposing opinions feel heavier. At that moment, the mind creates the most dangerous story. Maybe this path is not for me. And it is exactly here that most people give up, not out of weakness, but because they were taught that the right path must be easy, fast, and filled with external approval. But Hill discovered something that science now confirms: the greatest breakthroughs appear after the phase in which you think of quitting. Because the final part of the climb demands more breath, not because the summit is far, but because you are nearly there. Obstacles are not signals to stop, but natural filters that separate those who only wish from those who are truly committed. Because life always tests and asks, do you really want this? And the answer is not given with words, but with actions. A person who keeps moving without guarantees proves to the world and to their own mind that their dream is not a choice, but a decision, and decisions like this create consistency, and consistency turns confidence into momentum. But when you are in the middle of the storm, it is hard to see it, and fear appears: fear of failing again, fear of wasting time, fear of hearing "I told you so." And these fears are so common that positive psychology states resilience matters more for long-term success than talent, intelligence, or education. Persistent people accumulate experience that over time surpasses any natural ability. They grow through mistakes, learn through falls, and while many stop believing this path is not for me, the resilient discover they were just one step away from something greater. In such moments, your mind begins lying to you, saying it's useless, nothing works, nothing changes. But the truth is that many times you are not stuck from lack of progress, but because you have not yet gathered enough strength to break through the next level. Persistence works like pushing a broken-down car. At first you need tremendous force. It seems nothing moves, but after a few centimeters, movement begins, and after a few meters, you realize you are already moving forward. Most people give up in those first centimeters when nothing seems to happen, not realizing that the most important progress is invisible, and another trap is confusing persistence with repeating the same mistake, because persistence is not stubbornness. Persistence is adaptation, adjusting the strategy without changing the destination, falling and rising again. But each time rising more aware, stronger, and more strategic, because every fall teaches something success never does. If you listen closely, you will realize that obstacles appear not to stop you but to prepare you, because persistence is a daily decision, a quiet promise to yourself. I am tired, but I keep going. I doubt, but I keep going. I stumble, yet I move forward, because every difficulty becomes a sign that you are on the right path. Since the truly important roads are never easy, and they demand an inner transformation that only begins when you decide to push past your emotional, mental, and physical limits. Maybe you are in that exact moment right now. Maybe you feel that you have been trying for a very long time and nothing changes, and your mind is trying to convince you that it is no longer worth it. But what if right now is precisely when you must persist? And what if everything you have always wanted is on the other side of the chapter you are living today? And in these moments you must not stop, because when the thought of giving up appears, you are closer than ever to becoming the person you have always wanted to be. Persisting means crossing the invisible line that separates those who dream from those who achieve, and faith in yourself is the quiet force that distinguishes those who accomplish from those who only hope. It is not something visible or something others recognize instantly, and often you yourself don't notice it growing within you. It is an inner conviction that grows in the dark, when no one applauds, when results do not appear, and when even your own mind begins to question your choices. Napoleon Hill said that faith is the eternal elixir that gives life to ideas, and that metaphor is entirely accurate. Because someone who believes in themselves acts before seeing acts, before having acts, before being recognized. And it is exactly this action that shapes the reality around us. Yet the big problem is that many people confuse faith with feeling. They think they must feel confident before starting. In truth, faith is the ability to move forward, even when the heart is racing, the hands are trembling, and uncertainty is screaming inside your head. Faith is not the absence of fear. Faith is movement, despite fear. And that changes everything, because fear will always exist. The fear of failing, the fear of rejection, the fear of being seen trying, and many people never accomplish anything meaningful for one single reason: they allow fear to speak louder than their own voice. And here, modern neuroscience confirms something fascinating. The brain does not fully distinguish what is real from what is deeply imagined. When you visualize a scene with emotion, your brain forms connections and releases chemicals as if you were truly experiencing it. That is why high-performance athletes use visualization before competing. They mentally rehearse victory so many times that when the real moment arrives, the body already knows the way the mind trained reality before reality existed. Napoleon Hill understood this decades earlier when he wrote about the importance of feeding the subconscious with images of what one wants to achieve. He knew that once the mind accepts something as possible, the body finds a way to make it real. But no external example is stronger than what Hill experienced himself. There were long periods when he had no money, no support, no publisher, and no sign that his efforts would work. His family suffered, the debts grew, and criticism surrounded him. Yet he continued writing, studying, and persisting, building within himself a faith so deep that it became the only thing that had not collapsed. And when asked why he continued without results, he answered, "Because this is who I am." This sentence reveals the true meaning of faith. It does not depend on the environment. It depends on identity. Faith is not based on what you see. You do not become what others say you are, but what you choose to believe deep inside. And perhaps now you understand why so many people remain trapped in repeating cycles of frustration. They wait for some external validation, a compliment, a result, a sign before trusting themselves, even though the true order is the opposite, for the world only believes in you after you believe first. When you walk with that quiet yet firm conviction, your gestures shift, your posture changes, and your decisions begin to take a new shape, revealing paths you never noticed before. You begin saying yes to things that once scared you, and no to things that drained your energy, and your entire life slowly realigns from the inside out. Believing in yourself reconstructs your world from within. And when you recall how many times you quit because no one believed in you, you see how often you doubted your own potential. Perhaps all this time you waited for the world to affirm you, when in truth you were the one who needed to take that inner step, without guarantees, only with a decision. You need the courage to tell yourself, even without evidence, "I trust that I am capable," and that declaration creates a new identity that begins to influence everything around you. This is why practicing self-belief daily is so powerful, because affirmations are not empty self-help, but mental reprogramming, and visualization is not fantasy, but deliberate rehearsal. Every intentional statement you make plants a seed in your subconscious, and every image of the future you imagine strengthens its roots until emotions, choices, and actions align with that identity. The world will doubt you, people around you will unknowingly project their fears onto your dreams, and you yourself will face moments of hesitation. But true faith stays even when everything appears against you. It does not need applause, perfect conditions, or immediate results, only your willingness to keep moving. What transforms a life is not extraordinary talent, nor luck, nor perfect timing, but that stubborn, quiet faith that pushes you forward, even when nothing is certain. When you act from that inner certainty, reality begins to bend, adjust, and respond to who you have become, within turning faith into the force that reshapes your future. Transformation does not begin in the outer world. It begins inside you when you move before feeling ready, when you set a clear direction, and when you continue, even when quitting tempts you. Believing in yourself without any guarantee is the core mindset of successful people. And the fact that you have made it this far shows that a part of you has already awakened and knows you deserve more. A part of you wants to grow, break the old cycle, and rise, because this journey does not end here. It is only gaining more strength. The next video is already appearing on your screen, and it is the natural next step. Each video is a step upward. And in the next one, you will become slightly better than you are today. Thank you for walking with me until now, and I will see you in the next video so we can continue rising together.